Stop pretending persuasion is about convincing someone who's already decided they won't listen. That's the cheap version, the loud, clumsy, win-at-all-costs version that ruins conversations, relationships, and deals. If you want influence that lasts, if you want people to move towards your ideas because they want to, not because you pushed them, you must start before any sentence leaves your mouth. You must begin with who you are. Right now, put your hand on your chest. Feel that? That's your credibility. That's the signal people read before you even open your mouth. Your voice, your posture, your calm, they speak first. When you are firmly anchored inside yourself, words become instruments, not weapons. When you are shaky, even the clearest argument sounds like begging or bargaining. This isn't spiritual fluff, it's practical. The most persuasive people don't win arguments. They create environments where choice flows naturally toward the outcome they want. They don't push, they become magnetic. Magnetism is not magic. It's a set of skills and a state of being you can train. First rule: your inner state informs every interaction. If you want people to trust your idea, you must already be living the idea in your manner. Confidence is quiet. Desperation is loud. People feel that distance. Your job is to close it, not by shouting, but by tightening your internal alignment. So how do you build that alignment? Start here. Clarity. Before you attempt to persuade, be crystal clear about what you want and why. Not vague ambition, specific, non-negotiable clarity. If you can't state in one clean sentence what you believe and what you want from the other person, they will sniff the fog and retreat. Clarity is the first layer of authority. Next, calibrate your energy. Energy isn't about being energetic all the time. It's about matching your energy to the situation and owning it. Too many people think persuasion demands performance, loud voice, flashy gestures. That's theater, not influence. Real influence matches intensity to context, softer when the moment calls for safety, firmer when leadership is required. Your energy should say, "I'm here, I see you, I know where we could go." That message is irresistible. Third, certainty without arrogance. People follow those who appear certain because certainty reduces the cost of choosing. But certainty must be rooted in humility, not in ego. Humble certainty looks like, "I've tested this, I stand behind this, I believe it will help." Arrogant certainty looks like, "I'm always right." One invites you in, the other shuts the door. Practice this. Tell a story from your life where you tried something, failed, learned, and came back with a better plan. Vulnerability is a power move when it's framed as learning, not whining. It signals authenticity. It says you are human, not a polished billboard. People trust humans. Fourth, stillness. Learn to pause. A well-timed silence is a tool. It creates space and invites input. Too often we fill silence with more words, more urgency, and we push the other person away. When you pause, people project their own thinking into the gap. And that's where true persuasion begins, when someone starts convincing themselves. Your silence can be the most persuasive sentence you ever make. Fifth, posture of interest. This is not mere listening. It's active, engaged curiosity. Ask a question you actually want the answer to. Lean in, make eye contact, mirror small behaviors. But don't fake it. The moment your interest is performative, people sense it. Genuine curiosity lowers defenses. It flips the dynamic, from "I must protect myself" to "I want to be understood." When someone feels understood, they drop their walls, and then they are open. Now, a brief, powerful reframe. Persuasion is not opposition, it is invitation. You are not trying to defeat a competing idea. You are creating a new space where both of you can move. Invite them into a better story, not a story that erases theirs, but one that expands it. People defend what feels threatened. If your approach threatens identity, they will resist. If it honors identity and offers growth, they will lean in. Here's a tactical move. Lead with their world, then introduce yours. Start with a sentence that shows you've been listening, that you understand what matters to them. I hear you value X. That's exactly why I think Y could help. When you show alignment first, you reduce friction. You're not starting from a price tag, you're starting from a truth they already own. Language tip: swap but for and. I understand what you want, and here's a way to get it. But cancels what came before and triggers defense. And integrates. Tiny word choices like this change the emotional temperature of the room. Let's talk about confidence rituals. Before every important conversation, run a short prep routine. 1 minute of focused breathing, one line that anchors your purpose, one small physical gesture. Straighten your back, plant your feet. These micro rituals move your nervous system from reactive to responsive. They make your inner state consistent. Consistency breeds predictability, and predictability breeds trust. You've probably seen people who can make a room listen without saying much. They do it because they control their nervous system. Practice grounding. 5 slow breaths. Feel both feet on the floor. Soften the jaw. That's enough. It sounds small because it is. But small things change physiology, and physiology changes persuasion. Now, a practical framework to use in conversation. 3 moves. Notice, name, next. Notice, observe what's present. Feelings, objections, priorities. Don't judge, simply notice and state it. I notice you're worried about timing. Naming reduces emotional intensity because it brings the fuzzy into language. Name. Put words to the core concern. It seems you're concerned about the risk to the team. Naming shows you aren't guessing, you're paying attention. Next. Offer the next small step, not the entire staircase. Big asks are threats. Small reversible steps are invitations. Next, what if we run a 2-week trial with a small group? When you propose a tiny experiment, you shift from proving to learning. That's low cost, high value, and persuasive. Remember, people don't change because of logic alone. They change because of experience. When you offer a low-risk way to test, you give them an experience that can change belief faster than any argument. Use experiments as persuasion engines. A word about stories. Humans are wired for narrative. Dry facts are forgettable. Stories stick. Use short, relevant stories that tie into the listener's world. Personalize every story so the other person can imagine themselves in it. One client thought it wouldn't work, tried it for 2 weeks, and saved X hours. Don't overuse stories. Each one should land precisely and move the conversation forward. Now, the quiet power of boundaries. Persuasion doesn't mean you must agree to anything. Establish clear boundaries about what you will and won't do. People respect clarity. If you are a people pleaser, your persuasion is weak because you signal low value. Value shows when you keep your commitments and decline what dilutes your mission. That firmness, when delivered respectfully, increases your influence because people want leaders who steer, not passengers who follow every wind. Finally, cultivate a reputation for consistency. Influence is cumulative. One persuasive interaction is good, a track record is unstoppable. Show up, deliver, follow through. Let your deeds narrate your words. Now, I want you to act. Pick one conversation today where you usually push. Use the notice, name, next framework. Take one breath before you speak. Ask one genuine question. Offer one small experiment. Then, come here and write what happened. Write a comment below describing the conversation and the single sentence you used to invite the other person. Be honest. What worked? What faltered? Question for you. What's the one story from your life that would make someone else believe you? And would you dare to tell it right now, in the comments? Part 2. You already felt the power of being a steady presence. Now we move to the other side of influence, understanding the person across from you. If persuasion is a bridge, empathy is the planks that make it safe to cross. Without genuine understanding, your best arguments fall like brittle scaffolding. With it, you can carry entire conversations to places that once seemed impossible. First, abandon the checklist. Too many people come armed with facts, rebuttals, and the perfect sequence of talking points. That's not persuasion, that's a script. Real influence requires presence, not performance. When you listen, listen to the person, not to your next line. Give them the room to be messy. When you tolerate their mess, they feel seen. When they feel seen, they lower their guard. Start with the simplest discipline. Listen to understand, not to respond. This sounds obvious, but it's rare. Most listening is tactical. We listen to find a weakness, a place to insert our point. Flip it. Ask yourself, what is this person really trying to hold on to? What identity, fear, or hope is behind their words? Beneath resistance often lives a desire to be respected, to avoid loss, to feel safe, to be right. Find that desire and speak to it. Use reflective listening. Repeat the core of what they said in your own words, but keep it brief. So you're saying X. That short mirror reduces heat because it moves emotion into language. People calm when they are understood. Don't sanitize, be accurate. If they say, I'm worried this will ruin the team's rhythm, respond, you're worried the change could disrupt how the team works. That naming moves the conversation from reactivity to problem solving. Ask questions that dig, not accusatory, but curious. The best questions are open and they invite story. Try, what's the hardest part of this for you? Or, what would success look like in your world? Avoid why questions at first. They trigger defense. Why do you resist? Sounds like prosecution. Instead ask, what would make this feel less risky? And you'll get practical openings. Calibrate your pace. People don't change at the same speed. Your job is to match their tempo and then lead gently forward. If they're moving cautiously, slow your rate. If they're fast and confident, meet that energy. This is not manipulation, it's respectful adaptation. Imagine guiding someone across a stream. You take small steps for small stones and longer strides for wider ones. Use the power of naming emotions. Emotions are the thermostat of every decision. When you name them, you lower the temperature. It sounds like you're frustrated, often works better than 1,000 facts. You're showing emotional literacy. But beware, don't label to dismiss. Label with curiosity and care. Now, the practical architecture, the three-part listening loop. Listen, reflect, validate. Listen. Give full attention. Drop the half answers and the multitasking. Close your laptop, make eye contact, and be present for the length of the exchange. Reflect. Mirror the core content. Short, accurate, non-judgmental reflections translate feeling into words. Validate. Say something that normalizes the emotion or perspective. Given what you've been through, that makes total sense. Validation doesn't mean agreement, it means recognition. When people feel recognized, they become malleable, not in the sense of weak, but in the sense of open. A critical technique, the feel, felt, found pivot. It's classic because it works when used honestly. You say, I understand how you feel. Others have felt the same way. What they found when they tried X was Y. Don't weaponize this into canned persuasion. It only works if the felt and found come from real experience or credible stories. Another secret. Mirror language, not just content. People are moved by language patterns. If someone uses a phrase like, I'm protecting the team, mirror that phrase back later. Your protection of the team is clear. When your words echo theirs, they feel it's their own idea gaining traction. This is subtle and ethical. It's not trickery. It's building on their framework. Don't discount the power of rhythm. Speech pace, pauses, and cadence shape reception. Match slower speech to serious topics. Quicken a bit when energizing. Your rhythm tells people how to feel. If you rush, they rush. If you calm, they calm. Practice micro-commitments. Instead of asking for a big yes, ask for very small agreements that are easy to accept. Can we try this for 1 week? Would you be open to exploring one option? These tiny yeses create momentum. Each micro-commitment is a psychological step toward a larger change, because people want to be consistent with their own recent choices. When someone resists, don't repel with counter-arguments right away. Use curiosity first. Help me understand what would make this feel unsafe. Questions defuse resistance better than facts. The brain is wired to protect. When you treat protection as a question to solve together, you convert a defensive stance into a collaborative problem. Now, let's cover the ethical spine. Understanding is not an excuse to manipulate. You know the difference in your bones. One seeks to empower, the other to win. If your motive is truly to help the other person, their best outcome matters, even if it means you don't get your immediate win. Align your intention toward mutual benefit, and your influence will have integrity, and it will last. Use calibration checks. Every few minutes, pause and ask, is this making sense? Or, am I moving too fast? These small checks maintain consent in the conversation. You want the other person to feel they are choosing, not being swept. When people choose, they own the outcome. When they are swept, they resist afterward. A story. Once I was in a negotiation where the other side refused every proposal. I stopped and asked about their home life. They told me about a sick parent and financial strain. Everything shifted. The negotiation became human. I proposed a phased plan that reduced immediate burden because I understood their constraint. They accepted. You see, persuasion without understanding is like building on sand. With understanding, you build on bedrock. Don't underestimate nonverbal cues. People communicate more through tone, eye contact, and micro-expressions than through words. Watch for signs of withdrawal, folded arms, looking away, short responses. If you see withdrawal, slow down and return to listening. Ask a soft question. What would make this easier for you to consider? Their answer points to the real lever. Finally, practice empathy drills. Once a day, ask a colleague or friend a genuine question and listen for 5 minutes without interrupting. Reflect back what you heard. Note the shift in temperature. This short practice rewires your brain to default to curiosity. Over weeks, you'll notice you intuitively find the emotional lever in conversations. Now, your action. Pick one person you need to influence this week. Before the conversation, write down what you think they most want to protect. Enter the conversation with a plan to ask 3 genuine questions and to mirror at least one phrase they use. After the conversation, write a short note describing what you noticed when you mirrored their language. Comment below about the person you chose. You can be anonymous. What did you learn when you asked one real question and then listened without planning your reply? Question for you. What is the one value the other person in your life refuses to trade? And how can you honor that value while still moving things forward? Part 3. Words are not neutral tools. They are architecture. The way you build a sentence determines whether the person across from you opens a door or slams it. If Part 1 taught you to be a steady presence and Part 2 taught you to listen and map the other person's world, Part 3 is the workshop where you craft the words and the delivery that actually move people. This is where clarity meets art. What you say, how you say it, and the small linguistic choices that shape decisions. First, understand this simple truth. People make decisions emotionally and justify them logically. So your job is twofold. Create emotional access, then give an easy logical path that justifies the emotion. Facts alone rarely convert. Emotion creates the appetite. Reasoning clears the table. When you speak, begin by lighting the flame. A short image, a relatable feeling, a quick story. Then, place the facts so they look like natural next steps. Tone matters more than content. 2 people can say the exact same sentence, and one will land like an embrace, the other like an accusation. So control your tone before you refine your words. Tone carries intention. Practice a soft, steady tone for vulnerable conversations, a clear, decisive tone for leadership moments. If you're not sure what your tone communicates, record yourself on your phone and listen back. Honest playback is the fastest correction mechanism. Use framing. Frames tell people what kind of conversation they're in. If you start with, "We need to talk about what you did wrong," you framed the exchange as blame. If you start with, "I want to find a way that helps both of us," you framed it as collaboration. Reframe when you hit resistance. Instead of thinking of this as a loss, what if we see it as an experiment? Reframing shifts the map without bulldozing the territory. Choose prescriptive words that preserve agency. Replace commands with invitations. Swap "you must" for "would you consider." Swap "you should" for "how would you feel about." Notice the difference. Invitations keep dignity intact. Orders provoke pushback. Persuasion that respects agency lasts. Learn the power of small verbs and clear nouns. Replace vague verbs like do with precise ones like review, test, prototype, or pause. Vague language creates wiggle room and often excuses. Precise language narrows action and reduces ambiguity. People want to know what to do next. Give them that step. Another high-leverage technique is the micro-story. Humans are wired to simulate stories. A 30-second anecdote that ends with a concrete result is more persuasive than 5 data points. Keep micro-stories tight. Situation, action, result. A client doubled response rates by testing one headline for a week. Short, repeatable, believable. Use contrast to make decisions obvious. When people face 2 options, make one clearly better by contrast. Not by shaming, but by clarifying outcomes. Option A keeps things exactly as they are, and that risk stays. Option B tests a safe, controlled change that could free up 2 hours a week. Contrast simplifies the mental math. Pay attention to word transitions. Simple connectors shape perception. But cancels and connects. However feels formal and distant, yet feels softer. Because triggers the brain's compliance mechanism. Studies show people are more likely to agree when a reason follows.
Don't fabricate reasons, give real ones. Can I borrow your time because I want to test this idea for 1 week? Sounds cleaner and invites cooperation. Use presuppositions ethically. A presupposition is a phrase that assumes something is already true and invites the listener to accept it as a starting point. For example, instead of asking, "Will you join?" ask, "When you join, what day works best?" The second assumes joining is likely. Use this sparingly and honestly. Abused presuppositions become manipulative and destroy trust. When used to speed clarity and reduce indecision on mutually agreed ground, they are elegant.
Mind your pronouns. People respond when statements reflect them. Swap I for you or we to create inclusion. "I believe this can save time" is weaker than "this can free up your time to focus on priorities." Make them the hero in the language. "You could gain." "How would it feel for you if?" People buy the future where they are better. Simplicity wins. Long, complex sentences are mental heavy lifting. Trim your language like a sculptor. Say what matters, leave the rest. The clearest idea is often the most persuasive. If you can't state the step in one sentence, break it into two. Give people breathable chunks. Now, practice voice mechanics. Vocal variety, pitch, pace, volume, modulates attention. Use a slightly lower pitch for credibility, a rising cadence to show curiosity, a softer volume to draw someone in. Pauses are punctuation for the ear. When you pause before a key phrase, you create anticipation. Use this to your advantage. There are 3 choices. First, pause. Second, pause. And the third is deliver. Don't forget mirroring and pacing in speech. If the other person speaks slowly, slow down. If they use short sentences, use short sentences. Match their rate and then adjust it gradually. This subtle synchrony creates comfort. After you mirror, lead with a small increase in pace or an energetic phrase to pull them forward. Language that reduces perceived loss is powerful. People fear loss more than they value gain. So when you present change, highlight reduced downside and reversible steps. You won't lose anything by trying this for 2 weeks. Lowers the mental barrier. Frame experiments as temporary and reversible to lower resistance. Use because to create legitimate reasons. Let's try a simple pilot for 2 weeks because it will show whether the change saves time without disrupting routines. See how the reason makes the ask feel deliberate, not random? Be precise with commitment language. Replace vague agreements like "let's follow up" with specific ones like "let's talk next Friday at 11 a.m. for 20 minutes. Specificity creates accountability and moves people from intention to action. Now a tactical script you can adapt. Don't memorize it like a robot, make it your own. Open. I want to share a small idea that might help. Would you be open to a 2-minute test? Align. I know that keeping the team steady is your priority. Bridge. And what I'm proposing is a quick experiment that protects rhythm while we test a small change. Offer. Next step, we run this with one subgroup for 2 weeks, then we review the results together. Close. If it looks good, we scale. If not, we stop. Does that feel fair? Notice the elements: invitation, alignment, low-risk step, clear measurement, and a simple close. That pattern respects agency and reduces fear. A warning: never hide trade-offs. Authentic persuasion exposes costs honestly. People appreciate candor. This may require a small investment up front, but it will free time in the long run. Honesty builds long-term authority. Language practice drill. Record 3 versions of the same sentence with different tones: curious, confident, empathetic. Play them back. Which version feels persuasive without pressure? Repeat until your pattern feels natural. Finally, refine your internal script. The way you talk to yourself before speaking shapes your output. Replace anxious self-talk like "they'll think I'm stupid" with task-focused anchors like "I'm offering an option to test, it's reversible." Tiny internal shifts produce huge external differences. Action. Pick one pivotal sentence you say often that tends to raise resistance. Rework it into an invitation that preserves agency and reduces perceived loss. Use smaller verbs, clear next steps, and one honest reason. Then use it in a real conversation today. Leave a comment with your original sentence and your revised invitation. Tell us what you expect will change in the response. Question for you. Which single word in your everyday speech do you think triggers the most resistance? And are you brave enough to stop using it for 1 week? Part 4. Trust is the currency of influence. Without it, your best arguments are background noise. With it, a single quiet suggestion can start a movement. If Part 1 taught you presence, Part 2 taught you listening, Part 3 taught you language, Part 4 is where you build the bank account of credibility that others will draw from when they decide to follow you. Trust starts with predictability. People trust what they can anticipate. If you say you'll be there, and you are, then something subtle happens. Your words gain weight. Consistency compounds like interest. Show up, do the work, deliver on small promises, and people begin to believe in you because you made belief easy. Reputation is not built by grand speeches. It's built by 1,000 tiny deposits of reliability. Authority without humility is brittle. Real authority is earned through competence plus service. You can flash titles or certificates, but the real proof is results delivered under pressure. Want to be persuasive? Let your outcomes speak. When you act with clarity and then show measurable progress, your authority becomes legitimate and hard to dispute. People surrender resistance when they see you can actually make things better. Start with clarity about what you commit to. Ambiguity is the enemy of trust. If you agree to follow up, specify when, how, and what will be covered. "I'll send a 3-point summary by Friday at 3 p.m. beats "I'll get back to you." Clear commitments remove the mental tax from others. They make decisions easier. People trust those who reduce friction. Transparency is an accelerant. When you explain the why behind your decisions, you shrink suspicion. Don't hide trade-offs. If a choice has downsides, name them. People prefer honest complexity to polished deception. You signal maturity when you say, "Here's the risk, here's how we'll manage it, and here's the upside." Transparency invites collaborative problem solving and turns potential opponents into allies. Lead by example. If you ask others to change behavior, show the change yourself first. Your credibility evaporates if you preach what you don't practice. If you want punctual meetings, be early. If you want high-quality work, deliver your best work visibly. People follow the person who does, not the person who tells. Admit mistakes quickly and fix them with urgency. Nothing kills trust faster than defensiveness. When you own an error with a short, clear apology and a concrete fix, you actually increase your authority because you demonstrate accountability. An honest repair says, "I value the relationship and the outcome more than my ego." That kind of humility turns critics into collaborators. Boundaries build respect. Saying no when necessary protects your credibility. People respect leaders who choose priorities instead of trying to be all things to all people. Boundaries communicate that you value your commitments and will not dilute them. When you enforce reasonable limits, you show you're governed by principle, not by whim. Use visible signals of competence. Deliver quick wins. Publish short summaries of outcomes. Share metrics. Show before and after snapshots. Concrete evidence backs your claims. If someone hesitates, show them a small case study or a client anecdote, not to brag, but to illustrate what's possible. Social proof is not manipulation when it reflects real results. It's a shortcut for others to see what you stand for. Create small, low-risk trials and document them.
A 2-week pilot with clear metrics is persuasive because it shifts the argument from theory to experiment. When you follow the pilot with honest reporting, what worked, what didn't, and the next steps, you display a scientific temperament that breeds trust. People trust those who test, learn, and iterate.
Language matters. Use words that commit you to outcomes. Replace vague promises with specific obligations. I will is stronger than I might. We will review the results on Monday is stronger than we'll see. But don't use strong language if you won't follow through. Nothing erodes trust faster than an unmet I will. Cultivate a reputation for fairness. People prefer to align with leaders who are even-handed. When you make decisions, show the criteria you used. Use principles rather than preferences. Principles are defendable. Preferences feel arbitrary. If someone asks why you chose a path, respond with the principle. We prioritized continuity for customers, not because I like X. Principled decisions make your influence principled, and that's persuasive. Be accessible, but not always available. Availability shows you care. Over-availability signals low boundaries. Manage access with intention. Designate times for deep work and times for connection. When people know how to reach you and when, they don't feel abandoned, they feel respected. Document commitments publicly when appropriate. Public commitments increase follow-through. When you announce a timeline or a goal aloud or in writing, you increase accountability for yourself and your team. Use this carefully. Public commitments should be real and deliverable. When you meet them, your stock rises. When you miss them, the cost is visible, so don't overcommit. Teach people how you make decisions. When you explain your process, you demystify authority. Show your criteria, your constraints, and how you weigh options. When others understand your thinking, they are less likely to attribute motive and more likely to engage constructively. Practice accountability dialogues. After a project, hold a short review. What we intended, what happened, what we learned, what will change. Normalize frank conversation about performance without blame. When you model this, you create a culture where truth is valued and influence is built on reality, not rhetoric. Be patient with trust. It grows slowly and can be damaged quickly. Don't expect overnight faith. If you rush trust, people will smell the impatience. Instead, invest in small, consistent acts that accumulate. Over time, the pattern of your behavior becomes the proof of your intent. Use strategic vulnerability. Sharing a carefully chosen struggle makes you human and relatable. Tell a brief story of a setback and how you recovered, but never use vulnerability as manipulation. The aim is authenticity, to show you've been tested and learned. People trust those who have failed and rebuilt because it signals resilience and competence. Protect others' interests publicly. When you defend your team's work or give credit where it's due, people notice. Leaders who raise others gain influence because they demonstrate integrity. Lift the people around you, and your authority becomes shared and stronger. Finally, adopt a long-term view. Influence is not a quick conquest, it's a relationship portfolio. Some investments pay off slowly. A fair decision today can yield loyalty for years. Always ask, what will this choice do to our standing 6 months from now, 10 years? Short-term wins that cost trust are not wins at all. Now, an exercise. Identify one promise you made in the last month that you can still honor concretely. Make a clear, specific commitment to complete it within a set time frame. Announce it to the relevant person, and then deliver. After you do, write a short note about the outcome. Comment below about the promise you chose to honor and what happened when you kept it. Be specific. What did the other person say or do differently? Question for you. What's one promise you've kept that permanently changed how someone saw you? And why did it matter? Part 5. If influence were a muscle, Soft power would be the most refined movement, the one that looks effortless but took years to build. This is the place where persuasion becomes art. You move people not by force, but by creating the conditions where they choose the path you know is best. The paradox is simple and brutal. The more you insist, the less you get. The more you invite, the more they own. If you want to be someone who persuades without pressing, learn to design freedom. Start with a fierce respect for choice. People will always resist when they feel trapped. Your first job is to remove the trap. Frame the conversation so that the decision rests with them, because when people decide, they commit. Use language that hands the steering wheel back to them. Which option feels truer to you? What would you try if nothing else mattered? Questions like this don't abdicate leadership, they create ownership. Soft power is built around agency-preserving moves. Offer alternatives, not ultimatums. Instead of "you need to do X," present options. You could try A, B, or C. Which aligns with your priorities? Options narrow the abstract into real pathways while keeping dignity intact. People are more likely to pick a constructive path when they feel they chose it. Design decisions with reversibility. Commitment without fear is persuasive. If you can make the first step reversible, a pilot, a trial, a safety net, you lower the activation energy for change. Try this for 2 weeks and we'll assess. Beats, we're changing everything next month. Reversibility turns fear into curiosity. It turns "what if I fail" into "what if I learn?" Use the principle of autonomy plus competence. People want to feel free and they want to feel capable. If you can show a path that preserves both, you keep control, and here's a simple way to succeed, you reduce resistance dramatically. Break down the change into tiny wins that signal competence early. Each small success builds confidence and reduces friction for the next step. Lead with benefits that matter to them, not to you. Don't talk about how this helps the project. Talk about how it helps their day, their reputation, their time with family, their sense of mastery. When you tether the idea to what they care about, you make the choice personal. Napoleon Hill wrote about desire as fuel. Here, the desire you ignite must be their own. If they don't feel the desire, persuade the situation, not the person. Redesign the environment to make the desired choice easier. Craft defaults in your favor. Behavioral science shows that defaults steer behavior quietly. Make the desirable option the path of least resistance. For example, propose a default that people can opt out of rather than opt into. We'll run the test on Monday unless you ask us not to. Defaults are powerful only when they are fair and transparent. Use them ethically. Defaults should be benevolent and chosen with consent. Offer social proof in a way that elevates dignity. People look to others when deciding, but they also fear being labeled conformists. Use examples that mirror their values. Several teams like yours tried this and kept full control while saving time. Social proof works when it reflects genuine similarity and doesn't insult intelligence. Citing relevant peers is persuasive, bragging is not. Bring the future into the present with a vivid, personal image. Paint a short scene that lets them imagine the outcome. Not abstract benefits, but a specific snapshot. Imagine next month. You finish Wednesday with 2 hours saved, and you leave to pick up your child without checking email. A single concrete image can change the emotional calculus more than a paragraph of logic. Practice the tiny nudge. A nudge is a small prompt that steers choices without restricting them. It can be a reminder, a quick template, a simplified option, or a deadline that creates urgency without coercion. Nudges are most ethical when they make the choice easier and align with the person's declared goals. Use nudges to remove friction, not to bypass consent. Use commitment devices that honor freedom. A commitment device binds you when you want to act but might hesitate. Offer one that binds the group rather than an individual. For example, suggest a public short-term pledge. Let's agree to test this for 2 weeks and revisit. Public commitments increase follow-through, but they only work when the group buys in. Always ensure commitments are proportional and reversible. Work the relational economy. Soft persuasion depends on relational currency, warmth, reciprocity, and gratitude. Do small favors that don't create obligation but show goodwill. Reciprocity works quietly. When you give genuinely, people want to give back. But beware of transactional generosity. It must be sincere. Generosity that expects immediate return is not generosity. Frame the ask as a learning opportunity. People tolerate experiments more readily than bets. We don't have to be right, we just need to test. Scientists don't demand faith, they demand curiosity. Invite your counterpart into an experimental mindset. When both parties are testing, persuasion becomes collaborative discovery rather than conquest. Hold the line with soft firmness. There will be times you need to be firm. Soft power doesn't mean passive. It means firm with respect. Say no gracefully, offer alternatives, and restate the shared goal. I can't commit to X, but I can offer Y that aligns with our priorities. This combination of clarity and generosity commands respect. Use stories of mutual benefit. Share brief examples where both sides gained, especially when the other side initially resisted. These narratives show that compromise can be powerful and that shared wins are real. Reference the lessons of thinkers like Dale Carnegie. Influence grows where respect and human interest lead, but make the stories modern and relevant, not archaic citations. Design feedback loops that honor input. After any trial or change, ask, what worked? What felt off? What would you change? When people see their feedback matter, they feel ownership and become advocates. Feedback not only improves the process, it increases buy-in. Guard against coercive tactics. If you start to feel clever for getting what you want at someone else's expense, stop. Coercion corrodes relationships. Long-term influence is a compound interest game. Short-term wins bought with manipulation cost you future trust and leverage. Finally, practice humility in success. When an idea you championed wins, share credit loudly and honestly. Celebrate the team's role, not just the concept. Leaders who distribute glory expand their influence because they make others feel seen and powerful. Action step. Identify one change you want to introduce where people might resist. Rework your pitch using these soft power moves. Offer 2 alternatives. Make the first step reversible. Include a nudge or template, and design a clear feedback loop. Then, run the test and note the reactions. Write a comment describing the change you planned, the reversible first step you offered, and what reaction you expect. Be bold and specific. Question for you. What choice are you most afraid to offer someone? And how could you reframe it to make accepting feel like their decision, not yours? If you found this helpful, leave a short comment telling us which part changed how you think. And if you want more, subscribe and hit like.